Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. I am Jamal Ratnaik for the Newsfirst team. Up first in your headlines. Up first in your local news now, the prices of fuel will be revised with effect from midnight tonight. Now 92 octane of petrol has been increased by 3 rupees to 135 rupees, while 95 octane of petrol has been increased by 5 rupees to 164 rupees. The price of auto diesel has not changed, while the price of 1 litre of super diesel has increased by 2 rupees to 136 rupees. Meanwhile, in more local news, following the April 21st attacks, security forces have been working on high alert day and night to ensure that every Sri Lankan could go about their lives without any fear. However, there is a broad debate among the general public on the hard work of our dedicated security forces going to waste, as political influence is facilitating this release of certain suspects arrested by the forces. This was discussed in Parliament today.
Do not leave room for suspicion among the general public on the operations conducted by the police and the dry forces. There are various stories circulating that politicians are securing the release of the suspects arrested by the forces. Politicians are speaking on behalf of these suspects. Be sensitive about these incidents. We ask this government not to allow the investigations to be affected by anyone's influence. It was mentioned in a newspaper that one politician had influenced the commander of the army to release arrested suspects. This is a serious situation.
The
owner of the copper factory in Vellampitiya were among the suicide bombers. 9 employees at the factory were arrested. Under which act were they arrested? Was it under the Prevention of Terrorism Act? No. If they were arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, the magistrate cannot grant them bail. The police media spokesperson says that an investigation is underway into this matter as well. Are the police officers and the superintendent of police not aware of the Prevention of Terrorism Act? The TID knows exactly how to file charges. The singular youth who were arrested in connection to the incident in Digana were detained for 3 months under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The media reported for money being involved in these incidences, money in the eastern province and other areas. The relative of the people behind these attacks were involved. These people can be brought in under the Act. But that is not being done. So we ask the government if they want to really prevent terrorism, who is influencing them to repeal this act.
And joining you from the Newsfirst studios, Jaimal, as MP Susil Premjant mentioned in Parliament, why wasn't action taken under the Prevention of Terrorism Act against these suspects? Now, there is a justifiable suspicion that the political powers that be would have instructed the officials not to act under the Prevention of Terrorism Act purely because Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is attempting now to pass the counter-terrorism bill on the heels of this attack. Now, are the laws in Sri Lanka actually adequate to deal with global terrorism? This subject was discussed in Parliament today.
We are suspicious as to if this government is trying to pass the Counter-Terrorism Act over the corpses of the victims of the Easter Sunday attacks, as promised to their international paymasters.
The Honourable Prime Minister stressed that if we are to deal with global terrorism, we need new laws, so we need to approve this draft. But then the Prevention of Terrorism Act number 49 of 1978 is still in effect with only 2 amendments made to it. This act has the relevant provisions to arrest these terrorists who are said to have been trained overseas and are engaged in acts of terrorism in the country. But according to what I see, this counter-terrorism bill was brought by the Foreign Minister in 2015 to fulfill the undertaking of the government to the UNHRC as per Resolution 30/1. Therefore, this bill was brought in as per the direction of the Foreign Minister. Non-government organizations are behind these.
Now, for the past few years, the manner in which the government drafted certain legislation has been questioned now and again. The first such incident was the central bank bond scam. As the government came into power, the Prime Minister took under his purview the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. And of course, everybody in the country and the world over knows where this led, the central bank bond scam. Now, no proper action has been taken on this as yet. This too was discussed in the political arena today.
He is clearly trying to bend the law. We saw how he bent the law to his advantage during the central bank robbery. These laws were amended and Arjuna Mahendran was deported from the island. Nothing needs to be said. The central bank robbery is swept under the carpet. He amends the law to how he wants it to be. All of this is done for the protection of the Prime Minister and his government, not for the people or the nation.
Now, following the central bank bond scam, it was the 19th Amendment that came into the play. Now, there were attempts made through the 19th Amendment to legalize the suppression of media. However, media institutions took the matter to the Supreme Court, and these attempts to suppress media freedom were subdued by a Supreme Court verdict. Now, this matter too, incidentally, was discussed in Parliament today.
The Minister of Defence is the President, but the Defence Ministry cannot remove the IGP. There is an issue where the 19th Amendment says that the IGP cannot be removed. Currently, there is an acting IGP at the Police Department. Before we discuss anything else, we must put forward a proposal in Parliament to send these officials home because they were appointed by Parliament. Was this why the 19th Amendment was passed? Can't he be removed? The IGP is appointed by the Constitutional Council to the 19th Amendment, but he cannot be removed. What will happen, Honourable Chairman, if the IGP of the country goes mad? What is really happening here? Ranil Wickremesinghe wants to stay in power no matter what happens, just like how he stayed back at Temple Trees and got his premiership. He's asking Pujitha to hold on to his post just like I did. Even if the country is destroyed, is this what is being said? The entire country is in flames.
Now, this is, of course, not the first time that the 19th Amendment was critically discussed in the public sphere. Of course, people who were instrumental in drafting the 19th Amendment, Dr. Jayampati Wickramaratne and parliamentarian M.A. Sumanthiran, these people were the people who were instrumental in drafting the 19th Amendment. Where are they now when the country is in chaos? Purely due to the constraints that have been put upon the executive, especially by the 19th Amendment. Now, at the same time, the government took power, besides amending the constitution in a manner that the executive can't take proper action to stabilize the country. They also abrogated the Foreign Exchange Act and brought in a new Foreign Exchange Act. Now, experts say that all of this have affected the country very adversely, and currently we are suffering the consequences of all of this.
We recently witnessed how the government, all in a hurry, came forward to pass certain bills. For example, the Exchange Control Act was newly amended and approved. Before that, regulatory powers were in place for the central bank regarding exchange controls. The reason why this bill was amended was to assist that power to the minister. The power of administrative officials were assigned to an individual with a political backing. What was expected at that moment, major exchange rate volatility, benefiting the nation, but past incidences revealed that it did not happen. This is a methodology the Prime Minister followed ever since then. As an example, we saw how the exchange control law was passed and total control of it was handed over to his friend Ravi Karunanika. Same with the Rights to Information Act. The bill included clauses refraining from being informed of certain information. For an example, there is a clause for confidential agreements signed with foreign nationals. No one can be informed of them. Then any agreement can be signed blindfolding the people.
මුවාවෙන් බටර් ගාලා අයිසිං දාලා මේ රික්නෝසිංහ මහත්තයා නැත්නම් මේ රජය ගෙනාපු සෑම පනත යට තිබිලා තියෙන්නේ වෙනත් යටි කූට්ටු වැඩ.
Now, relating to the past experiences surrounding the passing of certain legislation and procedure when it comes to the central bank bond scam, and also the 19th Amendment to the Constitution followed by the Exchange Control Act, there is clear suspicion that the same is about to be done with the counter-terrorism bill that is currently being attempted to be passed in Parliament. These were the views expressed in Parliament regarding those attempts.
I ask the Prime Minister not to speak of this Counter-Terrorism Act and get the entire country out on the street. The Cardinal as well as the Mahanayaka Theros have said that the necessary provisions can be added to the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Please do not respond rigidly against these requests made by political parties and all other sectors.
When certain UNP MPs who are elected to Parliament by the general public speak with us, they say that they are against this. There is a group that loves the country in that camp as well. That group does not approve of this. The third clause in the bill is drafted in a way that even political activities can be interpreted as terrorist activities. So everyone who loves the country, no matter which party they represent, are against this bill. But we can see that a few people, including Ranil Wickremesinghe and Mangala Samaravira, are using this moment as an opportunity to fulfill the promises that they had made to certain parties.
මේ පනත සම්මත කරගන්න අවස්ථාව හැටියට මේ අවස්ථාව යොදා ගන්න කටයුතු කරනවා කියලා.
Now, these controversial laws in Sri Lanka are passed by so-called legal pundits, are drafted by so-called legal pundits in the government and passed into laws that affect every Sri Lankan by so-called public representatives, the people that you and I have elected to represent us in Parliament, the 225 honourable members of Parliament. Now, some of these parliamentarians make it into Parliament purely because of the wealth that they have at their command. The others make it into Parliament through the national list, through the relationship that they have with certain leading political powers. Now, the current Sri Lankan Parliament consists of former presidents, the likes of Mahinda Rajapaksa, people also like Sajith Premadasa, future presidents of the country, and honourable people like MP Vasudeva Nanayakara and Dinesh Gunawardena, who have behind them years and years of experience in public office. The current situation in the country, however, is that laws have been drafted in a manner that even the IGP of the country cannot be removed from his office at a time when it needs to be done. Now, while politicians are striving day and night to achieve their own personal gains, the security forces of the country are working around the clock to ensure the safety of the general public. These were some of the raids carried out by security forces today.
During a search operation in Tangol, police arrested 2 suspects with sharp weapons. The search operation was carried out by the Sri Lanka Navy, Army and the police at 2 stores believed to be belonging to a suspicious businessman. 9 swords, 32 sharp knives, 2 hatchets and other equipment was seized by the Sri Lanka Navy in another shop in Tangol.
Now, with the discovery of weapons from various parts of the island, across the island actually, it shows how far this terrorist network has been spread. Certain ministers, responsible ministers in the government have come forward and made some amusing statements regarding these discoveries. Now, recently, Minister A.H.M. Halim said that the swords that were discovered at certain locations were brought in to cut shrubs. Also, yesterday, Minister Rauf Hakim said that these swords were kept in possession of certain individuals for their own protection, for self-defense, for defense of their closest family members. Now, comments were made inside and outside of Parliament regarding these statements as well.
A statement was made yesterday saying that there is no problem in keeping swords in a house. So in a few days, they'll tell that there is no problem in having a pistol or a gun in order to safeguard their children. This is not Chicago. This is Sri Lanka. When swords are found, some say that it is for the safety of women. I have heard that swords are there in the Arab region, but not in Sri Lanka. What is the law behind this? I found the law. It says prohibit the carrying of dangerous knives. And it is stated that if found guilty for the possession, a fine is 50 rupees, and if one is found guilty for a second time, the fine is 100 rupees. I believe that these laws should be amended. There are so many swords. Are there women inside mosques for them to have swords? A crime is a crime no matter who does it. Police should arrest those who have swords. There cannot be two laws. A mistake is a mistake.
Now, these statements made by responsible ministers and members of the government have, of course, been subject to public discourse as well. Let's first take a look at the statement made by Minister Rauf Hakim yesterday regarding the discovery of certain weapons from across the country.
When equipment used by terrorists as well as equipment used by small-time criminals is seized, equipment that has been kept for self-defense is also caught and labelled as such. The Muslim community is portrayed as if they are planning a terrorist attack. The security forces and all communities must view this from a moderate stance.
Now, of course, these statements made without responsibility continue to create more and more problems within the country. Joining us now is News First very own Chaturanga Hapuarachi. Chaturanga, the general public are uneasy when these sort of statements are made. What is the basis of this, and where is this going to lead us at the end of the day?
Absolutely, Sharon. Before I want to take a statement from what you said earlier. You said 225 honourable members of parliament. With your permission, I would like to rephrase and say 225 so-called honourable members of parliament. These are people who are coming before the general public as if the general public are not wise enough to understand what they are doing, coming before the general public and making these various statements, saying that they, as you said, these swords and weapons were kept in the houses to cut shrubs, swords were kept for self-defense, so on and so forth. And while these so-called politicians, so-called honourable members come before the general public and make these statements, there are people who are around them as well, as if to protect these politicians from what they are saying. We have to remember why we are saying this is to ascertain and differentiate between how this incident is now being politicized by the politicians for their petty agendas, to fulfill their petty agendas. We want to make that clear before we go on to this next few lines I want to say, and I want to elaborate to our viewers as well. Sharon, now the main thing here is that these swords are being found from various places. There are crisp knives being found. There are other weapons being found. Amongst these weapons, the politicians come forward and say that they are for self-defense. Among these weapons are also weapons, explosive devices, gelatinite sticks that are found, detonators that are found. So all sorts of things are being found, Sharon, while these things are going on. So we have to raise the question at this time as to from whom do they from whom do they want this particular self-defense that they are talking about. What happens to the general public, the other general public who do not have maybe swords or weapons or explosive devices to find this self-defense that they are referring to? We want to raise that question as well. We are raising this question because these are the statements made by very responsible individuals connected to the political arena, coming before the media, coming before the general public, acting as if or thinking that the general public of this country are not wise enough to understand their political agendas, coming before the people and saying that these were here for the people, for their self-defense. This is because these politicians are making such statements. We remember right after, during the aftermath of the 21st April attacks, we remember senior security advisor came here on our show and said that explosives such as TATP had been used in the explosive devices. We heard how gelatinite sticks, detonators were found. We have to ask this question right now. Were they also for self-defense purposes? What were they for then, if the logic that they're trying to make, these politicians are trying to make, is that this is for self-defense and other purposes? That is the question, Shalan, that we have to make as well. And before we go, one more important factor. These people come before the general public, come before the media and make irresponsible, sometimes even shameful statements to say that this is what is happening. They fabricate what is happening in reality. They say what they want to, as if the people would take it as it is. But we want to raise this important point as well. Maybe the security forces, the TID, the CID and the police should take steps to look into the people who make such allegations, who make such statements as well. Maybe they are connected to what was happening, those involved in the carnage that happened in the country as well. This is a point to consider. Maybe look into the TID, the CID, the police, the security forces. Maybe look into the people who make such statements, because they too might be at the end of the day connected to those who are involved in the carnage that happened in the country, Shalan. That is the point that I'm trying to make here.
Thank you very much, Chaturanga. Now, moving on from irresponsible statements made by supposed responsible ministers of the government to irresponsible actions that have led to much controversy. Now, yesterday we reported regarding a revelation made by former Minister SB Dissanayake regarding Minister Rishad Badiuddin. Today, views were expressed regarding this as well in the political arena.
This is a complaint lodged by a Muslim national in Mannar. He says the 350 acres of an island which is located in a very valuable area in Mannar was purchased by Rishad Badiuddin. Some people on the island were attacked and chased away before the land was purchased. There are about 40 deeds of the plot of land that were purchased. All of these deeds have been purchased by relatives of Rishad Badiuddin. Investigations have revealed that these lands were purchased by Rishad's mother, his mother's sister, aunts, Rishad's brother, his sister-in-law, his wife's sibling, Rishad's driver and his driver's wife. The entire island was purchased by Rishad Badiuddin. The entire island of 350 acres of land on the island was purchased by Rishad Badiuddin. According to the value of the land mentioned on the deeds, it is worth 240 million rupees. He also owns many lands in Colombo. He has purchased them under the name of his close friend named Rif Khan. I believe that the investigation should be conducted into the earnings of a minister if he has amassed a massive amount of wealth during a short time span of holding public office. How these people who came in without a single cent and became one of the wealthiest people in the world should be looked into. How did they get this money? Looking at how some members of the government have earned their money, I believe an investigation should be conducted into this.
පොසත් වෙලා තියෙන ආකාරය පිළිබඳව රජය පරීක්ෂණ පැවැත්විය යුතුයි කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
අපිට සැකයක් තියෙනවා මේක මේ
We have a suspicion as to if he was referring to Minister Rishad Badiuddin, because he is a person who has been accused of many things. He is accused of having television channels and radio stations. He is also accused of being a person behind these incidences. So first, conduct an investigation on these sort of ministers.
පළමුවෙන්ම මෙවැනි චෝදනා තියෙන අමාත්‍යවරු පිළිබඳ පරීක්ෂණ කරන්න.
චෝදනාවට ලක් වෙච්ච ඇමතිවරුන්ට ගුවන් විදුලි නාලිකා තියෙනවා, රූපවාහිනී නාලිකා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒවෙන් පුළුවන් නේද රටක් පෙරලන්න. ඇයි මේවා දහනම් කරන්නේ නැත්තේ? කන්ඩිෂන් එකෙන් එන්න ඕන.
There should be conditions that state that politicians can't do these things. If they continue to do these under the names of different people, they should be investigated properly. Without looking at these matters properly, they allow them to continue doing these and later bring out these issues and make it look like a big problem. This cabinet minister who entered the wealthiest class of the country came for the interviews to represent the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. I asked him how he came there. He said he rode a bicycle from Mannar. I asked him if he had any money to engage in politics. He said he could find the money. After many years, how has he become one of the most wealthiest people in Asia? How has he brought 2 bags from the airport and distributed the money in them after this government came into power? And how these were concealed is still being spoken of. These are the factors that have given rise to suspicion. We would like to point out that even yesterday, Rishad Badiuddin visited his ministry. He will sit at the cabinet meeting next Tuesday. He will continue to collect money for terrorism while having control of over 72 public institutions in the country. He will continue to create terrorists. These leaders can't feel this. Rishad Badiuddin should resign immediately or he should be sacked before the next cabinet meeting.
The so-called university that goes by the name of Batticaloa campus was the subject of much controversy following the 21st of April attacks. Now, Newsfirst continued to report on the Batticaloa campus since then on a broad spectrum. This is what parliamentarians had to say about the Batticaloa campus in Parliament today.
Batticaloa Shara campus.
We urge the government to immediately take over the controversial Batticaloa campus in the eastern province. Who are the owners of this university? It does not matter who owns the share. this must definitely be taken over by the government.
The university was not initiated by our government, but if there are any shortcomings, we will look into it.
We have never given approval to this university during our government. You have to accept that fact. Let us speak the truth. They must have taken approval for a vocational training or something else. If we have approved this as a university, please present the facts to the parliament.
The Hira Foundation has given 35 acres of land. Was it in 2013? Yes, it was. It was for 491,200. It's still the same. Nothing has changed. There is no university.
They're pointing their fingers to this side, saying it was approved in 2013. And the current government says they did not approve this university. Then who is the owner of the Hira Foundation? Who is owning most of the shares? What is the position of this person in the current government? He is a governor. Why is Minister Kirialla reluctant to reveal Hizbullah's name? Why did Minister Kirialla fail to reveal the name of the owner and the son? Minister Kirialla revealed the year of commencement. Why can't Minister Kirialla reveal the means of income of the Hira Foundation owner and his son? I will use my power to call the Vocational Training Authority, University Grants Commission and other institutions on the 21st to discuss this issue. I'll bring all the institutions linked to this issue. Who approved this university? You represent the government. You have done this while representing the government. Honorable Deputy Speaker, keep in mind that these MPs are dealing with money and not only with votes. They deal with power. These MPs deal for their votes and money. We should investigate how these MPs ended up becoming millionaires. They had no money. These MPs are the people who are using religious beliefs and politics to stabilize their own power. Neither Rishad Batyudi nor Hizbullah will take their own lives as a suicide bomber who believes in extremism. They instead will attempt to expand their lifespan. This is the truth that you are not speaking.
Now, the security forces convened a media briefing today to detail the current security situation in the country.
Police arrested another suspect yesterday from Slave Island. Buhari Mohammed Rafiq, who is the suspect, is a resident of Galvihar Road, Dehiwala. Over 8.3 million rupees and jewellery of 97 pounds were found in his possession. Additionally, a luxury house in Dehiwala and a number of bank accounts which belong to the suspect were discovered. The suspect is being detained and further investigations are underway. And also police found explosive substances belonging to the terrorists responsible for the explosions in Sandamarudu in Kalmune. Police found these explosive substances buried in the shoreline based on a tip-off received by the intelligence units.
Now, yesterday, authorities informed all media institutions to refrain from reporting in detail regarding certain raids carried out by security forces, especially when it comes to the discovery of swords and other sort of weapons. MP Sunil Andunhethi, chairman of COPE, had this to say about that decision in Parliament today.
The news items on raids and swords have been censored to some extent because many believe that it will create disharmony among people. But what disrupts the people the most is watching those in the government, the Prime Minister and the President making statements on television, and by observing how those in the government defend the terrorists, disclosing facts and connections to the attacks, how certain MPs from the government had dealt with those connected to the attacks, and by observing irresponsible discussions from those individuals. Those irresponsible statements are what needs to be censored because the government is acting in a way which is no way suitable for the government to behave.
You're up to date on the current security situation of the country and what the government and Parliament is doing about it. It's back to you, Jamal, from the main studios.
Thank you, Shalan, and of course Chaturanga for bringing us the latest developments and an insightful report on the latest developments occurring in the country. In more news, now an urgent question on the status of Sri Lankan refugees the status of refugees in Sri Lanka was raised in the UK House of Commons yesterday.
Urgent question. Siobhan McDonough. Mr Speaker, to ask the Foreign and Commonwealth Office what representations his department has made to the government of Sri Lanka regarding the safety of the 1,193 UNHCR refugees in Negombo who have fled to Sri Lanka fleeing religious persecution from their countries and now fear for their safety following the terrible Easter Sunday bombings in Sri Lanka.
Minister Mark Field.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. A High Commission in Colombo, led by our outstanding High Commissioner, James Doris, is in contact with the government and UN agencies to work towards a more sustainable solution. And, of course, the UK, along with other partners, is monitoring that situation carefully. The UN is providing basic support for food, drinking water and immediate medical assistance, and also coordinating with civil society to provide additional relief items. Staff of the High Commission are also assisting in advocating and coordinating with the Sri Lankan government more generally to identify safe and secure relocation options to ensure protection of both refugees and asylum seekers. We also understand that processes are underway for some of the refugees to be resettled in third countries. Some 412 refugees are currently in the midst of a resettlement process of the UNHCR. Ministers and representatives of the UK government have, of course, met with Sri Lankan counterparts over these past 3 weeks to reinforce the importance of inclusivity and respect for human rights in response to the Easter Sunday attacks.
The Sri Lankan economy has been benefiting from increased tourism and particularly cruise ship visits recently. Can the Minister assure me that he keeps the travel advice for British citizens to Sri Lanka under constant review? And how can he ensure that we continue to have visitors to Sri Lanka contributing to their economy?
The FCO amended its travel advice, advising against all but essential travel to Sri Lanka, except, of course, through airport transit. We obviously very much hope this can be adjusted as soon as possible when the security situation allows. And we very much hope that we will be in a position at the earliest opportunity, but that obviously will be led by evidence on the ground and the facts to be able to ease the travel restrictions that we put in place some 3 weeks ago.
Meanwhile, concerns were raised in Parliament today regarding the use of drones and UAVs in various parts of the country. Drones and unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs with cameras attached, are used in the eastern province and the northern province. They are capable of travelling at a high altitude. There are rumours which claim that these are used by Americans to conduct seismographic surveys. However, we do not know for certain. There is another rumour going around saying that this is happening through the financial backing of the Millennium Fund. Direct our attention to this matter and inform the people. If drones are banned, it should be banned for everyone. News First reported of a similarly suspicious activity in October 2013. Subsequently, it was revealed that a foreign company was conducting an aerial survey in the northwestern province to identify areas for oil exploration. Accordingly, MP Sunil Hadunnetti requested the government in Parliament today to probe this matter since a similar debate has occurred in the country at present. It was said that there is a threat of drones with cameras attached flying over the Parliament and that security has now been ensured. However, Deputy Speaker, it is reported that drones are flown all over Mana, Mullatiu, Eluwankulam and Galle, and they are flown at a height exceeding 10 kilometers. You should confirm whether these drones are being used by the government or a different party. It is not only the Parliament which is at risk. The people would not mind the Parliament being attacked, even by a drone, but the safety of the people in this country is of paramount importance. The people do not care about the 225 in Parliament. Look into this matter.
We recently announced that the operation of drones and unmanned aerial vehicles was suspended until further notice. But there are reports which claim such vehicles are in operation, and a close observation revealed many were toy drones or kites. We request the public not to be afraid of this. Therefore, we have advised to take steps to bring them down.
The Hindu newspaper reported that several people who had been in India on tourist visa had been sent back to Sri Lanka.
The Hindu newspaper reports Indian intelligence was informed the group responsible for the April 21st attacks were in contact with a group of people who were in Chennai. This resulted in a search operation throughout the state of Tamil Nadu in recent days. The Hindu newspaper reports a 31-year-old Sri Lankan named Dhanuka Roshan was arrested and he was living in Chennai under a false name, Sudarshan. It was revealed as the suspect had a pending murder charge in Sri Lanka, his passport was impounded and he had made his way to Tamil Nadu via Rameswaram illegally by boat. The Hindu newspaper reports Dhanuka Roshan currently remains at the Pulal prison facility. Detectives revealed the suspect's wife, 5-year-old son and 6 others arrived in Chennai on tourist visa from Sri Lanka and they were deported to the island.
Acting Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira took oaths in the presence of President Maithripala Sirisena as the new Attorney General of Sri Lanka at the President's office this morning. Dappula de Oliveira was the counsel representing the Attorney General's department at the Presidential Commission investigating the central bank bond scam. The progress review meeting of the destruction caused for the churches by the April 21st terror attacks was held today.
The meeting was chaired by His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit at the Archbishop's house in Colombo. Monetary funds for reconstruction were presented to the respective churches and the project is conducted with the direct involvement of the Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Minister Sajith Premadasa. Construction material was also presented by several donors. I would like to thank Minister Sajith Premadasa as he undertook this project with his own interest. He called several times and said that we should begin the initiative. It's a great honor for us that the minister did not limit himself to words, but implemented the project as quickly as possible. And currently work has already begun and it is a great gesture.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for today. Good night and have a pleasant weekend.